My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my ranking of the Alien franchise from worst to best. And this video will have spoilers for every movie mentioned, including the brand new Romulus. So, there's your warning. But if you know me, you would know that I love horror movies. Some of my favorite franchises within that genre are the Conjuring movies, the Evil Dead movies, the Insidious movies, the Paranormal Activity movies, Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Child's Play movies. But the best out of all of them is this franchise here, the Alien movies. I just love how these movies can be both creature movies and also body horror, and there's a really great biological aspect to almost every single one, and I just have so much love. I feel like I'm way more positive on most of these movies than most people, but it's just genuinely one of the best franchises. So let's begin talking about the worst, and this one is a very easy pick for me. It's the only one that I actively hate, and it's Alien 3, which is really baffling because it's directed by David Fincher, who is one of the best directors of all time. But apparently, there was plenty of studio interference, and you can tell. I thought there was CGI in this movie, but someone actually corrected me in my review that it's still practical effects. They use this puppet, but the way it looks in the movie is just awful. It feels very phony whenever it shows up. I never find this movie to be scary or intense or engaging. Like, this movie is so unbelievably boring. I think the decision to kill Hicks and Newt off screen is one of the worst decisions ever made, and it's the one movie in this franchise that I have zero plans to ever go back to. Therefore, it is easily the worst one. The second worst Alien movie is Alien vs. Predator. And there's not really too much to say about this movie. It is serviceable. Like, you can watch this movie, but there's nothing great about it. It's just mindless entertainment. I do like the production design, and there's a few decent moments, but yeah, it's just a very forgettable movie. I I hate how they try to make the lead character into some kind of badass. Like, more than any other movie here, it just felt so phony. Like, the fact that at the end of the movie, her and the Predator are running as fast as possible and she's keeping up, I call bullshit. So, yeah, it's not bad, but it's not good either. The third worst is Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. And I don't hate this movie as much as everyone else. I do know there's one viewer of mine who really hates this movie, and I can get it, but I still get enough from it. Just barely enough. I do like how dark it is and how it's willing to go to those places. Like, if you're a pregnant woman, you're not safe. If you're a kid, you're not safe. And what they do there is really effective. I do like how this movie leans into B movies tropes. Like, at times it feels like a Friday the 13th movie, but with aliens and a predator in it instead. It's got very cliche characters, but I mean that in a good way. So, yeah, there are positives. The issue is the movie's way too dark. Like, you can't see a thing. It is almost impossible to watch, and I did feel the pacing drag in the second half. So, yeah, it's serviceable, but I just wish someone turned on the lights. Okay, now, like every movie I mention from this point on, I love. And the sixth best Alien movie is Alien Covenant. Now, I do love how this is a mix of Alien and Prometheus. You get the creature feature aspects of Alien, but you also get the philosophical elements of Prometheus, and it explores the idea of creation in a very effective manner. At first, I really hated how David made the xenomorphs, but over time, it has actually grown on me. Just the ideas of who are our creators, who created them, and I just think it works in context of this movie, and I think this movie can be really thrilling, intense, and brutal when needed. I think the movie is beautifully shot. This entire planet just looks fantastic, and Michael Fassbender is just phenomenal here. He plays both David and Walter, and he just nails it both. I thought Catherine Waterston does a real good job. Billy Crudup is perfectly fine, but I was also really impressed with Danny McBride. I think the ending of this movie is an effective cliffhanger. And yeah, I just really love so much of this movie. I do wish it followed up on Prometheus a bit more. Like, in some ways, it seems like a cop out, but they still make the best out of it. So, yeah, great movie. My next pick, you guys are going to hate me for, but I gotta be honest, and it's the original Alien movie. Now I'll just tell you why it's here and not higher up, and it's the fact that I do think this movie is about 10 minutes too long. I do think it can be too slow at times, especially in the last act. There's a section of the movie where she turns on self-destruct and she heads to the escape pod, and the alien is there blocking her path. So then she goes back to turn it off, and then she goes back to the escape pod. And it's just a very stretched out sequence that I definitely feel. So that's why it's only number 5. But that said, this is still the first movie of the franchise. It is the first time we saw the eggs. It is the first time we saw the face huggers. It is the first time we saw the chest bursting scene. It is the first time we saw the xenomorph, and it just laid the foundation for this entire franchise, and it's so creative and effective. The practical effects look amazing, but just the psychological elements really do get under your skin. I think it's incredibly well made by Ridley Scott. The production design is top notch. Sigourney Weaver gives a really great performance, and I love how she's a background character, but she kind of owns the title of main character. And the xenomorph design is just phenomenal. So I love so much of this movie. I really do. Like, it can be tense and thrilling. I love that scene in the air vents, but it does have some pacing issues, which means it will not be one of the first ones I go back to. But that said, this is a franchise you binge, absolutely. The fourth best Alien movie is it's Alien Resurrection. Look, I'm sorry, but I love this movie. I do not understand the hate that it gets, because this movie takes everything we have seen so far and just triples down on the insanity, and it's just glorious to watch. Throughout the franchise, they tease what could happen if this giant evil corporation gets their hands on this life form. And here we see what happens. And it's horrific. There's an entire scene where people are just waiting to be face hugged. Is that the right term? But you know what I mean. And I think there's a really great, terrifying sequence where they go into this room and it's just filled with Ripley's clones. And they're just deformed and mutated, and it just is horrific to watch to the point where they take them out of their misery. And I've never been bothered by the fact they bring Ripley back because it's not Ripley, it's a clone. And that idea carries into the main core of what this movie is. So I'm okay with it. I love the underwater scene. That makes the xenomorphs look different. And I love when they're trying to get out of the water, but they're surrounded by eggs. That's really great. The chest bursting scene where the camera goes down the guy's throats and it's all slapsticky is just fantastic. And the human xenomorph hybrid at the end is just pure nightmare fuel. It's wonderful. I love it. It is so horrific to look at. And that scene where it dies goes from, yes, you got him, to, oh, you got him, and, oh, that's really gross, and, oh, okay, it's still going on. This is very sad. Like, it's one of the greatest movie deaths of all time, and the practical effects look amazing. The production design is really good. I think Sigourney Weaver is good. Rhino Ryder, I like her character and the reveal that she's an android. Ron Perlman's good. I just love how unique this movie is, so that's why it's my fourth favorite. My third favorite is the brand new Alien Romulus. And let's just address the criticisms right off the bat, beginning with the line, "Get away from her, you bitch." Does it feel a little fan servicey? I mean, sure, but it doesn't take away from the movie. It's just one single line in one moment. So, I didn't like it, but it didn't ruin the movie for me like it did for apparently so many other people. Also, okay, so they recreate Ian Holm as Ash, but as Rook in this movie, and ethically, I'm not a fan of bringing dead actors back to life. It just feels very icky to me. But in the context of this movie, it does make sense. There's the Ash model that this movie fits within the timeline of, and the CGI does stick out like a sore thumb, but it is an android, so like, I feel like it can kind of work. Like, it's not like World 1 where Grand Moff Tarkin just doesn't look human at all. He doesn't look human at all in this movie, but it's because he's not human. So, I'm not a fan of this trend, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me. I just think this movie is so well crafted by Fede Alvarez. Like, he just fully delivers here. The use of sound is the best in this entire franchise, and maybe ever. I think the rest of the CGI is just stunning to look at. That scene where they're going through the asteroid belt at the end of the movie is just beautiful. The production design, did I already say that? No, I didn't, is top notch. The way this outpost and ship are brought to life just looks incredible. I think the practical effects are amazing. It's beautifully shot. It's well edited. Like, this movie is perfectly paced. The perfect amount of build-up and the perfect amount of payoff. So the craftsmanship is just top notch, and there's just some incredible sequences here. Like, the first scene with all those face huggers felt like the Newt and Ripley scene times 2 or times 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, I guess, because that scene is really great. I love that scene where they have to go through that room filled with face huggers and be as quiet as possible. That was just very tense. I was holding my breath the entire time. I love the chest burster scene and how we get the X-ray vision and how it's more brutal here than in any movie since the original. Like, there's something so brutal about it here that really worked for me. I love the scene with the xenomorph cocoon and how the guy tries to get the upper hand and how the acid just starts melting through his skin. That was really horrific. I thought the reveal of what's actually going on here was really great and really effective, and it kind of feels like it connects to the Alien and Prometheus movies thematically. The zero gravity scene is the best scene in this entire movie. I haven't seen anything like it, and it's just incredibly well made, and it's just phenomenal. The ending with the other human xenomorph hybrid really stood out to me. It kind of looked like an engineer in some ways, but it was really creepy and unnerving, and I just loved what it added to this movie. I really do. And I also think it's really well written. I love the beginning on the planet and why they're going off to this outpost and what they're trying to accomplish. It felt like a very personal goal. And when they remove the chiral tubes, it's not a stupid decision because it makes sense in the context of the movie. It was really well thought out. And I love how in order to get out of that situation, they end up compromising Andy, and I loved how he kind of becomes a villain for part of the movie. It added some nice personal stakes. Well, her brother isn't her brother anymore, and that got me even more engaged. I thought the scene where the ship crashed just added to the claustrophobic feel of this movie. Like, I felt trapped here with the characters. And the atmosphere, by the way, is just unreal. Like, it did feel like alien isolation. I love the entire aspect of what's right and what's smart. I thought that was just very compelling because when we watch movies, we're like, what are you doing? Don't open the door. Don't do that. And then we get mad when they do something stupid. But here, we see someone do the objectively correct thing, but how that creates conflict among them. It's just really solid script writing. I thought the entire cast did a really great job. Kaylee Spiney carries this movie incredibly well, and I liked how smart her character was, how she finds a way to remove the face hugger, and how she finds a way to go through that room. And I really cared about her relationship with Andy, and David Johnson just does a phenomenal job here. He brings Andy to life so perfectly, and I was really impressed. I really was. So yeah, like, this movie just gave me everything that I wanted from it. Like, it feels kinda Alien. It feels kinda Aliens. It feels kinda Alien Resurrection. It feels kinda Prometheus. And by the way, I love the music cue from Prometheus here. But it takes all those elements and just becomes its own movie that still feels fresh and new, that's still very effective. Is it the scariest movie ever? Well, it depends what your definition of scary is. Like, it's not scary like Insidious, but is this movie intense as hell? Absolutely. And I do, once again, love how the goo from Prometheus ties into this movie. It's fantastic. I love it. I'm probably going to see it again. It's just that good. So that's why it's my third favorite. My second favorite is Aliens. Look, if you know me, you know that James Cameron is my favorite filmmaker of all time, and I love how he can make movies like Avatar, Avatar 2, Titanic, and then he can also make movies like this, and Terminator 1 and 2, and The Abyss. The guy just has so much range, and it shows here. The practical effects look absolutely amazing, and I love how it evolves from the first movie. Just the simple decision to add more aliens is brilliant and effective as hell. It really is. I love how we get introduced to the Kreen xenomorph. That was a great addition. And it just felt like a great mix of familiar and new. and it's always engaging. The movie is tense and as thrilling as can be. That scene with Newt and Ripley stuck with the face huggers is a phenomenal sequence. I love it when shit escalates. It's just amazing stuff. The production design is great. I like the music by Jerry. No, is it James Horner? It's James Cameron. It must be James Horner. It's either James Horner or Jerry Goldsmith. Either way, the music is really good here. I love the look and feel of this movie. I love how Ripley's looking after Newt and how that gets us to care even more. And it's just a phenomenal sequel. It really is. I think since this movie came out before the rest of them, there's something about just how perfectly this one builds off the original that really stands out. And it just delivers on the carnage and the action and horror you would want from a movie like this. So that's why it's my second favorite. But hot take, Prometheus is my favorite. I love this movie. I really do. It's the movie of this franchise I have watched the most, and it's the one I think about most. Because it's amazing as an alien movie. You know, like, the guy gets poisoned pretty much by David, and he just slowly starts mutating, and they kill him, but then he comes back as a zombie. But then Elizabeth Shaw is pregnant, and she's about to give birth to an alien human hybrid. And that C-section scene is one of the most horrific scenes I've seen. It is just edge of your seat, thrilling, intense stuff. And I also love the scene where the Cobra attacks those guys and the guy's helmet melts in so he can't breathe. And when they find the old engineer head and that blows up, there's just so much great horror aspects here. But what really elevates this movie is its exploration of creation and our search for answers and our search for meaning, and just how, there's one line, Charlie's just like to Elizabeth, are you going to remove that cross now since we found our creators? And she's like, well, who created them? And I just thought that was brilliant. I love that scene between David and Charlie. Well, David asks him, why did you create me? And Charlie's just like, I don't know, because we could. Like, it's such a small scene, but it is so brilliant about how they're looking for these big, meaningful answers, and yet they can't even have any of their own. It was simply because we could. I just think there is so much to this movie. I really do. It's brilliant. It really is, and it's incredibly well crafted. The visual effects, the production design, the sound, the practical effects, it all just looks amazing. I love how it expands upon the mythology. Like, that black goo stuff, I do think is fascinating, and I think Naomi Rapace and Logan Marshall Green, Charlize Theron, Idris Elba all give very good performances, but Michael Fassbender is just phenomenal here. He is such a complex, fascinating character, and I just love everything about this movie. I really do. I just think it is a sci-fi masterpiece. And yes, I said masterpiece. So, anyways, that's why it's my favorite of the franchise. But I do want to say this. This is a franchise I want to see keep going. I would love to get the third part of the David trilogy, but I would also love a sequel to Alien Romulus. Like, I am not bored of these movies at all. So, keep giving them to me and keep making them be amazing, and I'll be very happy. But what's your ranking? I'm sure it's different than mine, but let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin, out.